Conceive, believe, achieve.
This is former UFC middleweight champion of the world, Michael Bisping.
Paddy the Baddy here. You're listening to Combat Sports UK.
And you're watching Combat Sports UK.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back from a little bit of a Christmas hiatus. We are here to review 2023. It's the Combat Sports UK MMA podcast. It's me, Taylor Collard, and I'm joined by our brother from over there in Canada, John Boguslavski. John, how are you, mate? How was the Christmas period going so far?
Good. A lot of good food, hanging out with friends. No viruses here, though. How about you?
Yeah, terrible. Terrible. As you alluded to, I've had our British listeners will be very familiar with the norovirus, which is going around at the moment. I had that all over Christmas, and today's New Year's Eve, so I'm just recovering now as we've just got time to jump on and do this pod, but I'm on the other side. So all good. I mean, I think first, a good place to start is to review the year in general. I mean, what were your thoughts about this year in MMA? Obviously, UFC, and now we've kind of got the PFL jumping up there, catching up. Quite a big year for them. What do you think about the year in general, John?
I think this could be the biggest year in MMA sports. Like you mentioned, the PFL buying Bellator. There was a lot of news coming out of there, especially here across the pond. We heard it too, because PFL and Bellator is more bigger in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty big. UFC, bigger than ever. Started the year with a bang with Jones coming back, winning the heavyweight championship. O'Malley finally, probably now is the biggest UFC star since Conor.
Mm-hmm.
We have a KO of the year that happened in the last event of the year. So some notable retirements. It's been probably one of the biggest years you see, and very, very memorable.
Yeah, totally. I mean, like, it just seems like every year gets bigger and bigger, especially since COVID now. I mean, this is what, the second kind of post-COVID year that events have been properly in full swing, and you feel like, the UFC made its way out to Paris, London, obviously back to Brazil this year, obviously back to Canada also earlier in the year, wasn't it?
Vancouver, yeah.
Yeah, Vancouver, back to Canada, obviously again at the start of 2024. So yeah, you just feel like things are really getting back into the flow. We had a bang contender series. PFL Europe was insane.
Yeah.
The rise of Octagon as well here in Europe's been incredible. The whole PFL Europe series. Cedric Doumbé in September doing what he did, right? Just lots and lots of really amazing moments. And it all seems to be on the up and up. So yeah, great. Yeah, I mean, let's jump straight into our awards. So the way we've done it is we've got our 3 awards, us obviously plus Nathan, and then we've kind of got our mainstream awards that we're going to do this year on behalf of Combat Sports UK. So we'll jump in straight away with your pick, your award, John. What is it and who's it going to?
So my award pick would be probably the star of 2023 actually, Sean O'Malley. So we heard this kid, Sean O'Malley, coming from Contender Series, this wacky, colorful hair guy, curly hair, tattoos everywhere, likes pink. I don't know. We came out of Contender Series with a Snoop Dogg podcast, Snoop Dogg commentary team next to him, and just kept climbing the rankings, and finally is the bantamweight champion of the world. And he did it in surprising fashion too. He TKO'd, knocked out Aljamain kind of did the Conor versus Aldo through the left when he was trying to come in, followed up with like 17 more shots and became the champion. And I think that seized him as the biggest UFC star right now we have since Conor. I don't know if we had any. There's nobody who had more mentions than him probably this year. No bigger fan base right now. How many people I see with sugar shirts, wearing the wig when he's fighting, and they kind of talk shit like him now too. They just follow, just a big following for him. So I feel the biggest seize opportunity moment award kind of will be for Sean O'Malley this year.
Yeah, that's a great shout, and I think you gotta it feels bad to have an MMA award show without trying to get Sean O'Malley in there. I mean, he obviously only fought the once, but hey, you only need to
Nothing
fight
bigger.
once sometimes and have that impact. Like you said, it's a real kind of coming of age. You know, he's kind of been Dana's next little star boy, so to speak, right? Dana always kind of waxes lyrical about him whenever he gets the opportunity. So it's great to see. Yeah, it's great to see somebody with his technique and a striker. You know, I feel like we've had a good few years of wrestlers and wrestling being the key, but now it looks like the pendulum's kind of turning the other way. You know, if you can have a good an incredible elite striking base. I mean, who was it? I think I was listening to Bo Nickel on Joe Rogan the other day, and he was saying like the way things have leveled up now is you've got to be elite in one thing, but you've got to
Yes.
be best in the world or was it the other way around? Best in the world at one thing and then elite at everything else
And
now.
everything, yeah.
Yeah, and it seems like, for Sean O'Malley to go out there and just kryptonite Aljamain Sterling like that, who people were talking about as the best bantamweight of all time at the time. Yeah, he beat Sean O'Malley. What else has he got to do? So yeah,
He beat the
terrific,
champ,
terrific.
so that's what he had to do. He
He
beat the
beat the
champ
guy. He beat the guy.
in Boston,
Mm-hmm.
who's at the TD Garden, which is one of the best atmosphere arenas, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were going crazy for him there. He was a challenger, and I didn't. Every time they were mentioning Sterling, who's a champion, they kept booing.
Yeah.
In him, so especially Sterling coming off defense with Cejudo, beating Jan.
Mm-hmm.
He had the momentum. He was, like you said, being considered the greatest bantamweight of all time, and now O'Malley just ended him in
Yeah,
2 rounds.
big time. And what a finish! What a terrific finish! And we'll jump on to Nathan's pick. Obviously, Nathan can't be here with us today, but he sent in his pick. His pick was retirement of the year for none other than Robbie Lawler. I mean, as you mentioned, we had quite a few retirements this year from the UFC, but none as sweet as Robbie Lawler's, right? I mean, you get a walk-off KO in your final fight in true
The
Robbie
first
Lawler
round.
fashion.
Yes.
I mean, just incredible. I feel like he might resonate a bit more with you than he does with me because I wasn't really around. I came just towards the end of his tenure. What was your kind of memories of Robbie and his career in the UFC?
Yeah, well, my memories came from mostly when he was actually champion. That's when then I was, keeping my head in for UFC. Obviously, we all know that fight versus McDonald.
Well, yeah, we do.
Busted lip. The spit of the blood between rounds. We mentioned this on another podcast with Nathan, but ruthless. That's his nickname couldn't be more perfect. Ruthless Robbie Lawler.
Mm-hmm.
He no boring fights. Always brought it. Someone is gonna either get knocked out or he's gonna get knocked out. When he was fighting, he was fighting since UFC was in a single digits pay-per-view.
Wow.
Tell you how long it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Became champion. Fought the who's who. He beat a lot of people's favorites. He became the favorite, and no better way to finish off your career to walk off KO in the first round. And especially after his KO, there's a video tribute while he's in the octagon ready,
Mm-hmm.
and he was reacting to it, and it just made it more emotional. So it definitely, that's why I think it stuck more with it.
Yeah, it was a real incredible retirement. I mean, you don't often get them like that, right? Like you don't. How often have you seen Frankie Edgar, right? He's an example. He got what was he face kicked?
Finished his
Face
last
kicked out of the
3 fights.
UFC. Yeah, face kicked out of the UFC. Anderson Silva was another one. I think. Did he lose his last fight in the UFC? And was that this
Uriah
year?
Hall.
Yeah, versus Uriah Hall, right?
That was in the Apex. That was last year because Hall is also out of the UFC.
Yeah, and I mean, just some other kind of honorable mentions. We had Amanda Nunes. She went out this year. Whether that one will stick, who knows? There could be a super fight that might tempt her back. But she was phenomenal as well. Another phenomenal fighter. Robbie Lawler, obviously the big one. Who else went out this year? I'm just trying to recall now.
There was that live UFC event where 2 heavyweights, and they both retired on the spot.
Was that Cummings?
Yes,
Something
I believe
like
so.
that?
Zach Cummings and his opponent too.
Right. Yeah.
Which is kind of nice. He retired in front of his hometown where he grew up, and his daughter for the first time walked into the octagon. He got a
Yeah.
knockout.
Yeah.
And also the thing with Lawler, when he says he retired, I believe him.
Yeah.
Unlike, Cejudo retiring or whatever other people say when they retire and they come back in 2 or 3 years. So
Yeah. And you kind of saw me put my hands on my head there, because how could I forget the Korean Zombie, right? The Korean Zombie's retirement over in
right,
Singapore.
yes,
How incredible! How
but
incredible was that one?
that was incredible. But again, he came off a knockout loss. So,
Yeah. It was rough.
but
It was rough.
the more beautiful moment was he got his flowers, like Max Holloway would say,
Mm-hmm.
when he was walking in, walking out. He took it in. The zombie song was going on, and the whole crowd was singing it. I
Yeah,
was
that
singing
was
it at
insane.
home. So
Me too. Me too. Me too. Jorge Masvidal. He was another one.
yeah,
Jorge
I'll be
Masvidal
back.
went
I'll
out
be
this
back.
year. Yeah, enjoy your retirement. And some notable ones outside of UFC: Fedor Emelianenko, retired after losing to
Yeah,
Ryan Bader. Benson Henderson, Chad Mendes, after bare knuckle. Marlon Moraes, and close to our hearts in the UK is obviously Stevie Ray, his retirement as well. Though there are rumors that Octagon are trying to get him out of retirement. So let's see. Let's see. We'll jump over to my award. My award is the moment of the year. And it's kind of one that when I was trying to think of an award, I was thinking, okay, what left me truly with my jaw to the ground, not believing what I'd seen. There was a few of them. Definitely Tom Aspinall against Sergey Pavlovich was one. Leon Edwards in London was another, but obviously that was just kind of a decision fight. But my moment of the year was Islam Makhachev's knockout against Alexander Volkanovski in the return fight in Abu Dhabi. Obviously, Volkanovski taking that fight on, what was it, 10 days notice?
I believe so.
Um,
10 days. Yeah.
yeah, and poor just getting head kicked to oblivion. Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge Volk fan. Never been too bothered about Makachev. Never really kind of got the buzz and the hype about him until that moment. And it was literally my jaw dropped to the ground. I mean, I was covering it online for Combat Sports UK at the time, and I was actually watching it with my jiu-jitsu coach. And we were both just looked at each other. We were just like, whoa,
Yeah.
oh, what has just happened? Because I don't think at that high level, when you have pound for pound number one and number two, I don't think you very often see it go down like that. And you don't often think that's what's going to happen. If you think Volk is going to, Islam's going to win, it's going to be by a decision, or maybe he gets a choke somehow. But nobody at the time had Islam Makhachev winning that fight by head kick KO. Nobody.
In the first round.
In the first round, nobody had it. I mean, what were your thoughts on that moment?
Yeah, just continue off, especially how the first fight went
Yeah, exactly.
back in January, I believe. Wouldn't think it would finish like this, especially, yeah, like you said, pound for pound number one versus number two.
Mm-hmm.
It gave us one of the best skillful fights we ever seen, and we thought that. And Makhachev's not known for striking. I don't remember him knocking out anybody other than one fella. And then he comes in, knocks out who everybody had as number one pound for pound, Volk,
Mm-hmm.
moving up, and he got head kicked KO. I was also shocked. I think this is probably called shock moment of the year, the biggest shocker. I would
Definitely.
never see that come. I'm still recovering kind of from that, because
Yeah.
I couldn't believe Volk got finished. Especially, we never see him get finished like that. We
No.
never see him finish. Period. But it makes it even bigger now. It makes it even bigger with a head kick, and then he kind of got stuck his knee. Makhachev kind of stuck his knee to his head, so he wouldn't move it and just kept pounding on him. Kind of savage. So yeah,
Yeah, it was
it
it,
it,
it was nasty.
it was very shocking. Yeah.
It was nasty. And I think also if things don't go Volk's way in February, you look back at this moment even more. But this was basically the moment that Volk
Yes.
was done. But that's getting ahead of ourselves. That
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
our kind of analyst picks for our awards of the year. So, John, I'll throw it over to you for kind of the first mainstream awards of the year. So, what do we have?
Okay. So we have breakout fighter of the year. And after intensive voting, we got Benoit Saint Denis, the God of War. I think it's a perfect nickname.
Damn right, yeah.
He fought. Did he fight Miranda? So he fought three times this year.
Yep. Ismael Bonfim, Thiago Moises, and Matt Frevola.
So Bonfim was probably one of the highest ranked prospect we had coming in this year. The Bonfim brothers.
Yeah.
Reneke choked in the first round. Thiago Moises, he fought Islam. He's like outside of top 15, in and out. Fight of the night. Finish in round 2, ground and pound. Mafalova, ranked in the lightweight division, fighting his hometown of New York. Head kick knockout in the first round.
Nasty head kick, yeah.
I think just that resume makes you has to make you consider him as stand of the year. As a breakout fighter. If you didn't know his name before, you definitely know him now. He's violent, finisher, French. I don't know what better you want from a fighter.
Yeah, I mean the dude's been on a tear. And I mean this year he's just taken it to another level with that pace. You know, if you think about that New York fight, actually, it was only a couple of months after Paris. You know, Paris was in September, New York in November, and he goes in there and he gets, you know, Fravola's going away from him, and he just swings up this left leg and knocks him straight down. I think he's had a hell of a year. You know, you go in there, you get 3 wins, 3 finishes in the first, 2 in the first, 1 in the second. Of like you said, you know, these guys, these aren't farmers he's going in against, right? You know, these guys have been in there. Thiago Moises, especially, he's been in there with some of the best, and he's been on the cusp of those rankings. He might even have been ranked at some point. I'm not sure. Frevola was on an absolute tear as well. I mean, he had a fantastic knockout earlier in the year as well. And that's just one hell of a resume. Yeah. Just to go in there.
He had 2 finishes in a row. Yeah, Azaitar as well.
Exactly. He'd had a hell of a year, and you know, you're probably looking at him, if not Benoit Saint Denis. So now I think is super well deserved for BSD. And I mean, the future for him. We were talking about, I think it was us on the podcast talking about him as a matchup for Paddy Pimblett, and we were just like, no,
that would be too much.
You know, and you think about it, for anybody, that matchup is horrible. So we could see, you know, 2024 be the year that he really steams into those rankings. And if he can get another 3 fights under his belt, because he's going to be fit, you know, he's French Foreign Legion, which is kind of your equivalent of the Navy SEALs. He's going to be fit. You know, he's not going to be one of these that fights every 6 months, 8 months. He's going to be in there. He's going to be getting after people.
He fought in 2023 on July. So he fought July, September, and November. So he had 3 fights within 5 months, 3 finishes.
Yeah.
Shows his durability. That he could do it in a short amount of time. He's only 28. He just hit his prime, his body prime. And he just got ranked in number 14. I have a feeling people would avoid him
big time
in the UC lightweight division.
Yeah.
Can you imagine him fighting like Fiziev?
Yeah.
Hooker. He has good fights going on, and I feel like he will definitely be around the top 5 by the end of, if not in top 5 by the end of the year, he will be close to it.
Yeah, I would totally agree. Like you said, I think it'll just be a case of, can they get him the fights, right? Yes. Can they get him enough fights to get him up there? But there's no doubt, you know, he'll be headlining if there is a Paris card next year. I would think he'd headline that against a top 10 guy, you would think. And some honorable mentions in here. I mean, from my side, I want to shout out Dricus du Plessis. I think he's had a hell of a year. You know, if you're putting together wins against
top contenders.
Yes, but I'm trying to think of the exact 2 that it was. Obviously, it's Robert Whittaker and Derek Brunson. You know, nobody else in the middleweight division right now is putting together a win streak like that with those names. You got Darren Till before it in 2022. Yeah, okay, I washed up maybe Darren Till, but Darren Till won that second round quite clearly against DDP. So yeah, you look at the resume that guy's putting together. I think you have one more fight. I don't think you could have matched him up against anybody, but if you'd have had one more maybe before, then you're looking at him and Benoit Saint Denis, and you kind of saying, okay, I think DDP actually has a better resume. You look at Whitaker and Bronson. I mean, it's unreal. Nobody beats Robert Whitaker. The only person who beats Robert Whitaker is called Israel Adesanya.
And
so
he did what he did basically.
Yeah, I mean that's phenomenal. I mean, any of the people that we kind of had on our list that you specifically wanted to shout out?
Diego Lopez.
Yes.
So I think that, like we kept saying about his hair, his hair is definitely deceiving. He came in. He came in on short notice to fight Eloev, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Came on short notice to fight Eloev. It was a fight of the night, I believe, and he kept it interesting because he kept going for the finish. He was just doing enough. He was doing enough to get a finish, but Eloev was, this Russian fighter doesn't want to get tapped. Then he proved that he should belong in the top 15 featherweight division because Eloev was ranked, and he got two first round finishes back to back. For a black belt in jiu-jitsu, he got an arm triangle versus Gavin Tucker, a fellow Canadian, I believe.
Yeah.
And then he finished past Sabatini.
Mm-hmm.
So although he did start on a loss, his stock didn't go down. It only got raised, and especially the two back-to-back first-round finishes. He would probably be top 3 breakout fighter.
Yeah, definitely. I think he is in there just with the activity, that puts him ahead of somebody like I think Ilia Topuria. We kind of knew about him before anyway. He was kind of on the radar. Only had the one fight this year, and yes, he absolutely starched Josh Emmett. Totally. Erin Blanchfield was another one who was on our list. Dakota Dicheva was on our list as well. But yeah, I think those top 3: Benoit Saint Denis at the top, Dricus du Plessis, Diego Lopez. I think that's a pretty good top 3. And yeah, I mean, Evloev's coming up against Arnold Allen soon, so that just tells you the level that Diego Lopez is. And I think top 15 is beckoning for him as well pretty soon, and he'll be a really exciting addition to that division. So takes us to the next one. Our next award of the year is Finish of the Year. A little bit of recency bias with this one, but I don't think you can argue with it at all. It was really close in our voting. It was neck and neck up until the last vote, and this was the Josh Emmett hammer
into the shadow realm
and beyond. Bryce Mitchell met his maker for 2 minutes and 30 seconds before he managed to get himself back up again. What an unbelievable knockout. We all know Josh Emmett's got power, but never seen that done to another human being inside the octagon where they're left kind of twitching on the floor, right? I mean, it was nasty, it was vicious, and it was beautiful at the same time, the way he executed it.
That overhand right of Emmett is too powerful. It's everything. The way he landed, the way Mitchell just folded, and the I don't know what was happening, a little kind of seizure type thing. It was scary knockout. Scary knockout, and it couldn't have come at a better time for being at the last event of the year. Got to get bumped up to the main card because of the Ian Gary and Luke.
Ian Gary, yeah.
Gary got sick, so no better moment for Emmett. I think there's no scarier knockout than that this year, I would say.
No, there isn't. Scarier. There isn't. I mean, you look. We obviously just talked about breakout fire, but you look at Josh Emmett. He was coming off 2 losses this year.
Yes.
So it was looking to be a really rough year for him. Obviously, Bryce came in at kind of last minute after who dropped out of that fight. Was it Giga? Yeah, it was Giga Chikadze.
Giga Chikadze, yeah.
Which was kind of looking like a bit of a layup for Giga, to try and get Giga kind of propelled into 2024. But Josh Emmett did what Josh Emmett does. I mean, if Josh Emmett's going to win, that's how he's going to win. He's going to knock you out. I mean, I don't think there's many at that weight class that carry that kind of power, right? I mean, I can't think of anyone off the top of my head who carries, yeah, people have got knockout power, but not like knock your
Emmett,
lights out
yeah.
power. Like that was horrible, horrible power. You don't think anyone's surviving that, and it's good for him. It's good for Emmett. It's good for the division to have somebody like that streaking and doing well. I don't think he's obviously top echelon, but he's going to be competitive and he's going to be fun. And hopefully it sets him up for a nice 2024, because he loses that fight and you're almost looking at him saying, okay, he's on the
He's
way
done.
out. What is he,
Yeah.
37, 38 years old? Especially at that weight class. Once you lack the speed advantage, you kind of go. But man, he carries that power. He carries that power. What a finish! What a finish! Any on that list that you want to shout out? Any other ones?
So I'm gonna say my knockout of the year,
Let's
and
go.
it was voted just outside of it. Mine was Izzy versus Pereira.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't think I screamed more when I saw Izzy knocking out Pereira, because it literally felt like it was gonna be round 5 all over again of their first fight, where
Mm-hmm.
Pereira pushes him to the cage through knees, left hook, body shot. Izzy playing possum in a way, and then with the left, or no, with the right, then stuns Pereira, hits him again and falls down, and I think the celebration was cold as well. So I think it was just, for me, it was knockout of the year, because you wouldn't see that coming. I don't think you'd ever see Pereira get knocked out. This is like, I don't know how to say it, but it was a shocking moment. You never thought you'd see Pereira knock out. Izzy hasn't had a good finish in a while.
Yeah.
And he lost to this guy already 4 times or 3 times before this. So it must have been like a big monkey off the shoulders for Izzy. I don't know if you guys use that reference over there. Just all the weight, all the stress off the shoulders coming off. Finally gets a victory, and not only a victory, an impressive knockout. Gets the belt back, beats his rival, and he regains basically the division. Then you're asking yourself, oh, what to do now again?
Mm-hmm.
Is he champion? You do a trilogy with Pereira, maybe, but we all know what happened. But there was a lot of like, oh my god moments when Izzy did that.
Yeah, I agree. It wasn't on my list. I've got to say, it wasn't on my top 3 list, because I just thought there were better ones that came out during the year. The one that I'm going to shout out actually wasn't on my list either, but it's one that came to me when I watched UFC 296, and I didn't add it into our thread there, so to speak. But it's the Shavkat and Jeff Neal one.
Oh yeah.
Just because of the viciousness of it, and I think it's good to have a little bit of a submission on there as well. But just the way he kind of said, yeah, you know what, I'm done with you. I'm just gonna kind of put you kind of across my waist and just crank your neck until you give up.
Standing up like that
Yeah,
too. Yeah.
standing up. It was just, yeah, absolutely savage. What you expect of Shavkat Rakhmonov is what you get with that finish. Obviously, the Wonder Boy one I enjoyed as well, but it didn't have kind of the same wow factor that this one had. This one had a real wow factor, because that was a tough fight. Probably Shavkat's toughest fight that we've seen so far. And him to go out and then just say, yeah, I'm just going to turn it up a level. I'm going to take your neck and I'm going to take it home with me. You can resist if you want, but it's happening. And then he just absolutely takes it off. And then that's it. Game over. Jeff Neal's a tough dude. Yeah, really, really impressive finish from there. The other ones we had on our list is obviously Islam versus Volk, that we talked about earlier, the Izzy Pereira that you spoke about, and the Barboza versus Billy Quarantillo knee, which a lot of people kind of forgot about. Yeah, that was another good one. Nice to see Edson Barboza go back to his roots. Yeah, back to his roots, so to speak. And there was another epic knockout the other night at Octagon 51. Pirat getting it on the Terminator, Carlos Bamola, who had just won the light heavyweight title. Then he went down to middleweight to kind of squash a bit of a rivalry, and he got absolutely starched within 2 minutes. Very similar to the he just kind of hit him and he just fell back like slow motion. I think Undertaker in WWE style just fell slow motion, bang.
Nice,
that was a pretty pretty sick knockout as well. So a very exciting year full of finishes. That will take us to our next award. So, John, with that being said, I'll throw it over to you for the next award. What have we got?
So we kind of alluded to it earlier. Fight of the year for us was Islam versus Volk 1. So it was the first pay-per-view of the year in January back in Australia. It was Volk trying to become double champ, and it was probably the most skillful fight I've ever watched, or we've ever watched, I believe. If I'm so Volk fighting in his hometown, in his home country of Australia, and trying to become double champ, and probably was, as terms of somebody trying to move up and become double champ, it was the most entertaining double champion fight. If alluded back to like Izzy Blachowicz, kind of back and forth, a little bit of a kind of a snooze fest trying to wrestle. Obviously Conor says Eddie Alvarez was one-sided. The list goes on. So especially this wasn't just a double champ status, it was pound for pound. It just, all the stakes were there right at the beginning of the year. And most skillful fight. People still debating who actually won that fight. Back and forth. Like we were talking about earlier, if Islam does get a finishes on the ground, he couldn't finish. He couldn't get Volk cleanly on the ground. He couldn't finish him. We had a body triangle for a whole round, basically.
Yep.
And then at round 5, I don't think we ever seen a Dagestani guy on his back. And then Volk was going to town for the last minute of round 5, trying to get that finish for him. Basically, most entertaining, skillful fight. If you want to see peak MMA, that was it. I don't think there's ever there's no fight better showing of skills, wrestling, striking, grappling. You could have seen any other fight.
Yeah, listen to the man when he tells you. That was exactly right. That was a full MMA contest. The only one that comes close to me is Narukian and Gamrot. I mean, that also was it was an incredibly high level technical fight, but it didn't have the entertainment factor that this one had.
And the stakes.
And the stakes, exactly. And the stakes. You didn't have Makachev sitting on Volk's back with Volk Rabbit punching him and laughing and smiling and talking to him. You didn't have the crowd, singing singing
You're
down
a
under
wanker
on his way out. Yeah, you're a wanker as well. All kinds of different things. The atmosphere was there. The stakes were there. In my opinion, the decision wasn't there. But it had absolutely everything. It had absolutely everything. There were big question marks going into that fight. Would Volk have the strength moving up a weight class? Yes, he did. Could he stop the wrestling of Islam? Yes, he could most of the time. He even put it on Islam towards the end of the fight there, as you mentioned. And just the absolute scale of it, and just the quality that came out in that main event, and just the back and forth nature. It's everything you want from a mixed martial arts contest. And with a real phenomenal fight. Obviously led to the rematch, which didn't quite go the same way.
We'll ignore it.
We'll ignore it for Volk. But hey, if you want to pound for pound, were they pound for pound 1 and 2 at the time, or was
1 and 2?
They were 1 and 2, right? Yeah.
Volk was 1, Islam was 2. Both on an extremely long winning streak. Volk undefeated in the UFC. And Islam, since that knockout lost, also in a 9 fight win streak, I believe, or 10 fight win streak. The stakes were high. It literally just had everything. You were watching the 2 best fighters in the world in one of the best weight class divisions in the world. 2 champions fighting each other, trying to become a double champion. It was electric. If you don't know MMA, that would be the fight I'll tell you to watch. It had everything, literally everything. Skill for skill, pound for pound, champion versus champion. Just nuts.
Yeah, and you can tell that story going into it. You can say, hey, these were the guys. These were the guys. This was the fight. How many times in history have we had that in MMA? never.
I don't
Right?
remember once. No,
Right? I
pound
don't
for
think they get
pounds, the
exactly.
top two pound for pounds fighting each other. Usually they're like too big of a weight difference.
Yeah.
But now we
Yeah.
saw some just move up 10 pounds from featherweight to lightweight and brought their all. It's just insane. It was just, I keep saying it, but there's no other fight you'd see every skill you would learn in MMA brought into a fight.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And executed to the highest
Exactly.
level.
Yes.
Highest level. Amazing. What incredible fight that was. Honorable mention. Where are you sitting for your honorable mention on this list? Quite a tough one, actually. I found this one tough to get my honorable mention, but I think I've
There's
got it.
there's few, but for me, my second fight of the year, was Moreno versus Pantoja.
Mm-hmm.
What the I don't know which one was 2, 3, whatever they had, because
Yeah.
one of them was in the tough, which don't really count as a fight. But speaking of stakes, it was for a championship fight, back and forth. Moreno recently, since that Figgy first fight, doesn't have a boring fight.
Nah, he does
Always
not.
back and forth. He's a stubborn guy. He doesn't want to get knocked out or finished. So for him to come in, he's defending his belt versus Pantoja, for a guy who he lost twice to. He gave it a fight. Also, a fight where the decision is debatable in
Mm-hmm.
terms to who won it. Because I have in my cards, I have Moreno who won that fight. But good for Pantoja, he got the fight. He got the finish, but sorry, he got the decision.
Yeah.
But it was hell of back and forth as well. Striking, knockdowns, grappling. Nobody took a step backwards. And then same fight as well for the stakes as well too, for the flyweight championship. So not as good as on Volk 1, but it's up there.
It's up there. Yeah. I mean, it's so great for that to be the flyweight division. Hasn't had many bad fights at all this year. I mean, how many fights in that flyweight division is snooze fest, honestly.
Recently,
It's
none. Like
recently none, right?
resurgence. What a resurgence from that division too. For a couple years back, talking about getting rid of the division because
Yeah.
of DJ being so dominant.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think he would ever lose. Then Cejudo gets it. He moves up. Kind of a bigger question in the division when Cejudo moves up, and then you have Figgy, who's seen this unstoppable force, and they had a quick turnaround, Moreno and Figgy, for that first fight.
Yeah.
And then since then, it was just like, okay, Figgy, Moreno. But then you think, okay, there's a new, and Moreno fought Kai France with interim. Still entertaining, got the finish. And then you think you'd see somebody else in the title picture, and you saw Pantoja. He got it done too. Now you're like, okay, we have some contenders. We have a division.
Yeah. Yeah. It's worked out. It's worked out really well. And it's great to see, because it's good that the UFC has that going from top to bottom, and you've got such exciting people coming through. Takes us to my honorable mention. Honestly, I'm really on the fence with both of these fights. The first one I thought of was the most recent one, Aldana versus Carol Rosa, which was just an absolute war. And to see Irene Aldana come back from that, her leg blew up the size of a tree trunk. Come back from that Amanda Nunes performance where she didn't throw a punch. I mean, she threw punches in this fight. You're damn sure she did. But my fight of the year, one that put a smile on my face and that will forever live in my memory, right there next to Cub Swanson and Doo-Ho Choi, is Stephen Wonderboy Thompson against Kevin Holland. Oh, what a fight! I just enjoyed this so much from start to finish. It was just beautiful to watch. Who doesn't love Stephen Wonderboy Thompson anyway? Who doesn't love Kevin Holland? And then they just said to each other, yeah, you know what? We're going to make this fight even better. We're going to agree to not go to the ground. And if we do, we're just going to stand up anyway. I mean,
gentleman agreement. Yeah.
The set of minerals on Kevin Holland to do that, especially being a jiu-jitsu black belt himself, against Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, is out of this world. And it just turned into one of the most entertaining, great
memorable
fights that we're gonna see for a long time. I think people are gonna look back on that as kind of a dark horse of this year. You obviously had Dan Hooker and Jalen Turner And
Yeah,
another
back and
great
forth.
fight, like you mentioned, Moreno and Pantoja. And there's a few of them that go in there. But this one for me was just amazing, just because it was so much fun. Like it was just so much fun. It was just like just watching something you want to happen. And this is what I love so much about MMA is you do get to see things that you want, and you get to see things that you know is going to be a ton of fun. Yeah, Dustin and Justin as well. That was this year, right? That was an amazing fight.
Yeah, for
Um,
the first round, that was hella back and forth. Just
yeah,
well, it seemed like it was going to start a war, and then
exactly.
we had a knockout of the contention year.
Exactly. And Gaethje, Fiziev was also this year. That was a hell of a fight.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Gamrot Zarukin, I'm sure that was this year, was it? Or was it 22? Anyway, doesn't matter. So many good fights, but this one goes up there for me just because of the fun factor. And yeah, I mean, speaking of kind of that similar style, we'll move on to our female fighter of the year. Kind of a bit of a surprise, I guess, to anyone listening on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean to us. But the votes came down to Dakota Dicheva, and I'll kind of just read off her resume for this year because it kind of speaks for itself. So she was involved in the PFL Europe flyweight tournament. I want to say flyweight, or was it straw? Anyway, fly or straw. She was involved in her first fight in March, rear naked choke in the first round against Malian Hermanson. Second fight in September, third round punches, Cornelia Home. If you haven't seen that finish, go and pause the podcast, go and look up that finish because it is a thing of beauty the way she sets it up. And the third was the doctor stoppage after round one of Valentina Scatizzi of the most recent PFL Europe finals that won her the £100,000 or euros or dollars, whatever currency it was in, over there in Dublin, Ireland, just passed in December. I mean, that feels like a long time ago. And she, for me, has been the female fighter of the year because she's had 3 fights in 6 months. So that's also three training camps. That first fight, she had a change of opponent. Also, pressure was on her going into this tournament. She was probably the favorite going into that tournament. She was probably one of the more well-known going into that tournament. A hell of a lot of hype. I mean, imagine Sean O'Malley levels of hype put on a 25-year-old young lady.
Female fighter. Yeah.
Female fighter, right? She fights over in the States anyway. She's fighting in the PFL, and she put a spotlight on it, and she just dominated. Her skills are such high level. And for me, she's a female fighter of the year because of the way she's finished those fights. That last fight, she just pieced her up for the first round, blew her eye out. So that even though the girl didn't want to quit, she didn't have a choice. The doctor just stopped it straight there. The one before that, the one that I was just talking about, the Cornelia Home one, that was a real back and forth for 3 rounds, probably Dakota's toughest fight to date. The first 2 rounds weren't quite going her way. And in the third round, she just turns it up, finds her range, hits her with a beautiful combination, one left to the body, right up top, and just finishes the fight, leaving the girl on her backside, completely finished, and really stamps her name. She's going to be, we could be talking about her next year as a breakout fighter of the year on a more international stage. She's a female fighter of the year because obviously we're kind of a UK-based publication, so she comes out quite prominently. But for you guys across the pond, we talked about her before, didn't we, John? And I kind of pointed out that she's one to watch in that upcoming PFL card. She is going to be one to watch next year if she's on the main show or if she's fighting on those Bellator shows. Watch Dakota Dicheva next year. That's it. That's me done.
And I second that. As somebody who doesn't watch PFL as much, and then you forced me to watch that PFL Europe championship, which I'm glad you did.
Good.
I tuned in for Dakota, and wow, I just no other words. Wow, the way she was using her Thai, her Muay Thai, because I watched that only her last fight of the year, incredible. She dominant, one-sided, almost blew the eye out of her opponent. Because I if doctor wasn't gonna stop, her coach wasn't gonna stop, I was gonna stop it because that fight, her eye was closed. It was insane how skillful she is. If only the PFL allowed elbows,
Yep. Hmm.
She seems like a Muay Thai specialist. So I feel like if there was she allow elbows in that league, it would be even nastier. And like you said, Sean O'Malley hype in the UK. I started to hear from her, so not it's gonna be not too long where Twitter and the casuals will start talking about her. She's a female fighter. She's good looking as well.
Yeah.
She's very skillful. It's all the story for success, I feel.
Yeah. Yeah. She brings it. If she gets on, a couple of American cards next year, um, she'll light it up. She'll light it up. People will be talking about her, especially in the women's division, where it always kind of needs that bit of fresh blood. I wouldn't be surprised if the UFC are knocking on her door in a
Oh
couple of
yeah.
years with a big offer to say, "Hey, come over here. You really want to test yourself? Get yourself over here." Because unfortunately, those fights really, if you actually look at it, especially with the PFL, they don't even have that division in the mainstream tournament. Those fights may not be there for that long with PFL, depending what happens with Bellator. But phenomenal year. Dakota Dicheva, our female fighter of the year. Honorable mentions. Who do you want to mention from that list we've got there?
Um, I'd mention Blanchfield. She got a main event now in Atlantic City next year lined up.
Yeah.
She is probably, I wouldn't say prospect, but the biggest contender in the flyweight division now, especially with Grasso as a champion,
Mm-hmm. You
who's
got
also
Manon Ferro, who she's going to fight, right?
Manuel Ferro. Yeah, so they're both top five, and isn't she on a 9-fight win streak as well? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-fight win streak right now in the women's division. Somebody has that, they have a title shot. It probably is champion.
Yeah. And I mean,
Um,
sorry to interrupt, but you list off the names: Miranda Maverick, JJ Aldridge, Molly McCann, Jessica Andrade, Talia Santos. I mean, again, these are not bums, right? These are not
no,
bums she's beaten.
Tyler Santos in her last fight. It's Santos fought for the belt
Mm-hmm.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, so it's no bum. A few finishes there too. Like it wasn't like just boring decisions. Like some stereotypical women's fights in the UFC. She got a few finishes. She got stuff done, and warranted a main event. So I don't know if prospect, but definitely the biggest contender right now. And I wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
be surprised if she will be champion by the end of the year. I mean by the end of the year of next year.
Yeah, spoiler alert for our next podcast. Everyone's
Yeah.
got John's pick there. Yeah, I find it hard to disagree with you, man. I mean, she's had an incredible year, two fights, one decision, and that rear naked choke finish, and obviously what she did to Molly McCann just completely stopped her in her tracks. I mean, Molly was on a bit of a tear at that point, and Aaron Blanchfield just said, no, I'll take that arm with me, thank you very much. Yeah,
The
phenomenal
only
man.
thing it sucked is she fought twice this year. That's
Yeah,
why it's just not like unlike Dakota who fought 3 times in 3 finishes.
yeah.
Um, if you're looking more UC side, Blanchfield had a finish of Andrade, and like that's a name. She's
Yeah, for sure.
former um strawweight champion. Tyler Santos who fought for the belt, so it's like big steps. And if you don't know her, you should know her. She will
Yeah,
be
for sure.
or she will be fighting for the belt. Granted, she gets past Mano Farriat, and the biggest probably um thing going for her. She's only 24.
Yeah, she's young.
She's young. She's hella young. She has room to grow. She's
Hmm.
only gonna turn 25 in May, and she's gonna be hitting her. If she's not in her prime now, she's gonna be hitting her prime soon, rather than later. So her nickname is Cold Blooded. It fits.
Yeah, that's about right. That's about right. We could be looking at a pretty dominant champ there. I mean, my honorable mention is for Alexa Grasso. Um, what a phenomenal year. Anyone who beat
Uh-huh.
Valentina Shevchenko, whatever you think about the second
Finishes
fight,
Valentin Shevchenko.
finishes Valentina Shevchenko, you're up there. You're absolutely up there. I mean, obviously, a bit more activity would have been great. I, for one, didn't think that it was a draw. I thought Grasso won that
Oh.
fight. I mean, me and
Mm-hmm.
Nathan argued that one to death in a podcast. I think it was one of our first or second podcasts, where we talked about that. I mean, I had the honor of interviewing Alexa for the website earlier this year, and she was absolutely lovely. Really, really great interview. So that's kind of my highlight of the year as well. So therefore, she gets a big honorable mention. My partner is from Mexico, so I have no choice but to support her. So Mexico till I die.
Oh, it was her vote. It was her vote. Okay.
So no, I mean she's had a phenomenal year, man. I mean to go out there and finish Valentina Shevchenko, yep, you can call that a fluke because you could say, okay, Valentina made a mistake, whatever, with the spinning thing. Then you see the
That's what you gotta
training.
do. That's what you gotta do in a fight.
Exactly.
You capitalize on the mistakes.
That's what you got to do.
Yeah.
But then to go into that second fight and do what she did, she knocked down Valentina into a kind
Yeah.
of backward roll.
Late.
She knocked her down late, right, and just dominated her in some of those rounds. Her boxing was on point. She's just looking like such a complete fighter. I'm super excited for what's coming for her this year. Hopefully, she gets that third win over Valentina, and then fights start to go through the contenders. I think if I'm very honest, I agree with you. I think Blanchfield will come through and take it. I just think that ground game is just too aggressive and too good. And then I think it could be a hot potato of a division. Looking at some of the talent in there, it's pretty stacked. It's really exciting. But I'd love to see Alexa get at least 1-2 more defenses in there. I think she'd beat Manon Fiorot if Manon Fiorot managed to beat Blanchfield. But yeah, nonetheless, an incredible year for those three ladies, and three to watch out for next year. Some other that we talked about was Tatiana Suarez making her comeback. Obviously this year just looking phenomenal. Irene Aldana is another one we kind of got a shout out. She had a phenomenal year. You could say Mayra Bueno Silva, but then you kind of have the USADA thing. It's all a bit questionable, but she's up there. That's for sure. Takes us to our last one.
She got a title shot soon, so
she's got a title shot. She's got
a title shot. So
yeah, your boy Sean Strickland coming in to save the day, so to speak, right at the top of that card. But anyway, speaking of, I know you've got an opinion, but let's go. Last award of the day. What do we have, John?
Male Fighter of the Year. You guys can guess it. So I'll mention what Combat Sports UK thinks it is, and then I'll say my opinion after. So based on the votes, Male Fighter of the Year is Alex Pereira, the UFC Light Heavyweight Championship. So he, moves up a weight class after losing to Izzy at the beginning of the year. But he got it done. He one of the probably events of the year. He was the co-main for Jan Blachowicz. Won by decision. He moved up a weight class. We never see him at light heavyweight in the UFC. We obviously know him as a kickboxer and what's the name?
Glory.
Glory, exactly. Sorry. Glory, he's a 2-time weight division. Pereira was always talking about being a 3-time weight division, heavyweight, light heavyweight, middleweight champion. So he beat Blachowicz, former champion, got it done. Then was supposed to be co-headlining as well, Madison Square Garden. John Jones got injured. Headlines, MSG, bigger spotlight, and knocks out Yuri. First round? Was it first round?
Second?
Second round, right. Knocks out Yuri, another former champion. And the way that he did too, I don't think, you saw Glover Reyes going through the mountains of hell to try to finish Yuri, but Pereira just gets it done easily round 2, just short left to the temple, to the back of the ear, kind of.
Yeah.
Gets it done. Yuri was coming off an injury, but the fact that I never saw Yuri got finished like that.
No, doesn't happen. So according to Combat Sports UK, Male Fighter of the Year. I don't know if you want to say something before I go into. Yeah, I'll jump in. I'll jump in on Alex before you drop your bomb. I actually just went back to our thread and I noticed that he wasn't even in your top 3. So, and he still managed to get the win. Similar to what you were saying. I mean, Alex, I think he got knocked out at the start of the year, obviously by Izzy, and then came back and won those 2 fights against Jan Blachowicz by a decision, and then the big one to become the two weight world champion against Yuri Prohashka. I mean, Yuri Prohashka, he's been up until he won the belt, he was kind of the boogeyman of the division. He tore
Mm-hmm.
through people, tore through people. I mean, need I remind you of that spinning elbow that he did on Dominic Reyes that face planted him? Well, the artist formerly known as Dominic Reyes, and everything else that
Yeah.
guy was doing. Like you said, Glover Teixeira couldn't finish him for all of his efforts, and then he goes out and gets that injury. You know, Yuri was the guy, and everyone's been talking about Yuri coming back, being this phenom, and then you've got Alex Pereira, who has done this in less than 10 fights in the UFC. He's become
Mm-hmm.
a two-weight world champion in less than 10 fights. I mean, that's incredible. I think only, if I'm not mistaken, only one of those fights has gone the distance, and that was the Blachowicz one. Correct me if I'm
Yeah.
wrong. You know,
Yeah.
that's something as well, right? I mean, you know, we're talking about Shavkat Rakhmonov finishing everybody, but look at Alex Pereira as well. I mean, this guy's an
Mm-hmm.
absolute monster. And it was almost kind of like amazing what he did. Everyone kind of thought, yeah, he needs to move up to light heavyweight, but to go and deal with Jan Blachowicz, that's no easy fight. You know, that is no easy fight. We look at we mentioned what
Right.
happened with Izzy earlier, right? Where he just kind of got wrestled by Jan and when he came up. So there's precedent there. You know, 185 to 205 is a big jump. You know, it's not
Yeah.
one of the smaller jumps in the UFC. If you're talking about two weight like Conor did, GSP kind of did not too far off, 5 pounds, I guess. Amanda Nunes as well. So not an easy thing to do what he did, and then to go out there and to steal the show like that in Madison Square Garden, phenomenal, phenomenal from Alex Pereira. But let's get to your guy. Let's get to your thoughts. This is interesting.
Well, I just it could be an honorable mention, I guess, because for me, you can't be fighter of the year with being knocked out in your first fight. He got knocked out by Izzy. Was it April? I don't remember when. He got knocked out in the first fight, in his first fight of the year. So good for him to recover and become champion. But I'm going to talk about somebody who did beat Izzy, and Sean Strickland. I think there's no bigger win this year, more shocking, or it's another shocking type of win. We talked about shocking finish, but shocking win will be Strickland versus Izzy. The way he he made Izzy not look like a world class boxer. He made Izzy look like he didn't belong there. He very one sided.
Yeah.
Except that few moments in round two where Izzy probably got round, but Strickland just knocked down Izzy and dominated him the whole time. Strickland won 3 fights this year. He won in a short notice fight versus Emanov, who was ranked a big prospect, kind of. Because if you remember correctly, in December of 2022, he lost to split decision with Cannonier, and we thought, Strickland is done. He comes back short notice, fights Emanov, gets a decision, but gets it done. Beats Aliskerov. Was it Aliskerov? Yes, Aliskerov, and wins in the dominant. Sorry,
he beat Abus.
Oh, sorry,
Abus Magomedov.
Abus Magomedov. Yeah, so this German Dagestani guy, and who had a lot of hype on him, especially with his first fight, who got a head kick knockout.
Yeah,
beats him in the second round by pure domination. And we talk about UFC just seize their opportunities. DDP was injured or didn't want to fight Izzy in that short amount of time. Strickland came in, also kind of on short notice, and absolutely dominated. So I think 3 dominant fights, especially with the third one beating top 5 pound for pound guy, the middleweight division champion, great, one or two greatest of all time, finish round of the year being champion. I think that's my debate for him being
it's a strong one.
Male fighter of the year.
It's a strong one. Like you said, he was pretty much, 2022, you kind of consider him done. He has that knockout from Alex Pereira and the Jared Cannonier loss. And he bounces back this year with, Imavov, Magomedov, and then Izzy. hard to argue against you. Definitely hard to argue against you. I'm still on the side of Alex Pereira just because of the magnitude of what he did, and you don't see it very often in the time
For
that you've
sure.
seen it.
That
But definitely, Sean Strickland is joint second for me with two other guys that I'm going to go into now. The first one I think is a bit more low key is Leon Edwards. Obviously coming off headshot bang at the back end of 2022, going into headlining his first pay-per-view as a champ in London, beating off Kamaru Usman in 5 rounds, and then following that up with the performance that everybody wished for Christmas of beating Colby Covington at his own game pretty handily, very easily. Leon Edwards is definitely up there, joint second for me. But the guy who, for me, is just maybe a little bit above that joint second is Tom Aspinall. Why? Coming back off of that horrendous knee injury against Curtis Blade in July of 2022, to come back and then just smash up Marcin Tybura in London,
Oh yeah.
and then to take that title fight 2 weeks notice against the scariest guy in the UFC. There is no question at the time he was the scariest guy in the UFC.
Oh yeah.
Nobody's looking to fight him, right? Sergey Pavlovich. He comes in, dances his way around him. He takes one big shot from Sergey and he says, okay, I'm not dealing with this anymore. Puts those hands to good use and just leaves him flat, wondering what day it is on the canvas. For me, Tom Aspinall, he's probably my male fighter of the year. I'm going to kind of switch mid conversation here. He was the one I had at the top before Pereira. Yeah, phenomenal year from him. Can't disagree that Pereira is the fighter of the year, but Tom Aspinall's definitely in there. Sean Strickland, like you say, and then Leon Edwards. Maybe Leon is a little bit below those other two guys because of the magnitude of what they did, but what he did was incredible as well. So really, really great year for a lot of guys. You know, you could throw in people like Shavkat in there as well. You could throw in Ian Gary. You could put him in there. He's had a great year, but I think for magnitude, for legacy, for doing it in the way he did, I think Alex Pereira is a very worthy winner. And John, that takes us to the end. That's all of our awards dished out for 2023. Any final thoughts to end out the year of our Combat Sports UK MMA podcast?
Just showing your British biasness, saying in the honorable mentions Aspinall Edwards, but I couldn't agree more. I think Aspinall definitely 2 first-round finishes is amazing. What a year it has been for the UFC, I think. UFC, MMA in general. We could be talking about this, I feel like, for 3 more hours if we had enough time. I know Dana says this a lot. He loves saying this in his post press conference interviews, that like he keeps saying to the guys, how are we going to beat this year? How are we going to beat this year? And just the next year keeps coming back. He's not lying. It keeps getting better, especially with what he already announced for next year.
Yeah.
And UC 300 coming up. I expect next year to overshadow this year, but that's a tough task to do because this year was amazing. We had probably everything we had. We had pound for pound champion, pound versus pound for pound, people fighting against each other. We had a double champ attempt. Pereira going for a second belt you've seen less than 10 fights, like you said. Some good British moments. Dakota, Leon, Tom Aspinall becoming interim champion. Crazy knockouts. It was just a phenomenal year, I feel. It left me speechless, left me yelling, left me happy. So amazing year.
A great year indeed, and a lot to build on. Like we said in this podcast, so many great things. We probably missed so much. I was thinking even in the finish of the year, we didn't even talk about Justin Gaethje and Dustin Poirier, which was crazy.
Right, for the BMF too. Like how?
Yeah, for the BMF, we had a BMF fight. We had was Nate Diaz's last fight this year.
Nate Diaz's last fight too. Yeah, got the finish.
All we really needed, I guess, was a corner fight to kind of really put the icing on the cake, which we thought we would have. But speaking of him, apparently he's going to drop news tomorrow, being New Year's Day. So that'll take us nicely into 2024. We will be back at some point this week being the first week of January, with our predictions for 2024. So who do we think is going to have what belt? What storylines are we looking out for? And we'll have a little competition between me and you. We'll be on. Possibly, hopefully, Nathan if he's back. Hopefully, Alex as well if he's back. We'll have a little competition to see who at the end of the year has got their predictions the most right.
Oh, yeah.
That doesn't make sense. But anyway, who's more spot on with their predictions. So, John May, I want to take the time to thank you for all the effort you've put into the podcast and Combat Sports UK in general for this year. A big thanks also to Lewis and Sean, who run kind of the background stuff. They're kind of the bigwigs behind us. Also to Lewis Glover, who uploads this podcast on a weekly basis to the audio feed. Obviously to Nathan, to Alex as well, and to everybody out there in the Combat Sports UK family. Thank you all for all your hard work, and we'll be smashing it in 2024. John, enjoy your New Year's Eve, and I'll hopefully be speaking to you very soon for our predictions, mate.
Yes, happy New Year to you as well. Thanks for this as well. Everybody said thank you too. I like second that. Combat Sports UK has been great opportunity, and it's gonna be a bigger year next year. Happy New Year, Taylor. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year, everybody. That's us signing out. Cheers.
See you guys.